Hi there, I'm Angie Zimmerman, the Flower Diva, and today I'm going to show you how to make a bridal party bouquet. I've got one made already, so we're going to make another one. It's going to look very similar to this. There are only 2 bridesmaids in this particular wedding, and I'm using 3 mini callas, 3 dahlias, and about 10 roses. I started off with a recipe. I designed my recipes ahead of time, and I had allocated 8 roses per, but as I was putting it together, it looked like it needed a couple more, so I added more. I'm telling you this because when I am determining what my recipes are going to be, I have an idea in mind of what I want this to look like in the end, and how many flowers it will take to accomplish that. I'll say that again. I have an idea of how many flowers it will take to accomplish the bouquet or the centerpiece that I'm going to be creating. I always order extra flowers because I design for a look, not for a stem count. So I wanted this look. That's about an 8-inch diameter. I did not want just 3 callas or 3 dahlias and 3 roses. That would not have looked right. So again, I start adding and putting them together, and if it needs more, I add more. Just a little side note for you. So you want to have your flowers ready, and what I like to do is I use these cylinder vases because flowers need water like we need air. So when the bouquet is complete, then I put it back into this vase, and this has just a tiny bit of water on the bottom so that the flowers can continue to get water. And I pre-assemble my vases. So I have my recipe, I look at what that is, and then I go through and I put the flowers that I've allocated for that bouquet into this vase. So then when I'm ready to work on this, everything that I need is already here. And when I do that, I do cut the stem lengths a little bit shorter. So this flower was originally this long, but I cut them shorter because it's a lot easier to work with your hands than the longer stems. You're also going to want to have some ribbon handy that you're going to wrap the stems with. You're going to want to have some pins handy because we have to fasten that ribbon, and we do that by using pins. These are a special pin for that particular purpose. They're short. That's only about a 1/2 inch length. If you can't find these, because they are sometimes a little bit harder to find, they're a fairly new product, so not every store carries them yet. If you cannot find them, then go ahead and get the normal boutonniere pins and use your wire cutters and cut them shorter. And I like to cut them at an angle so that I give it another little point, which makes it easier to go through the ribbon and the flower stems. The other thing that I use, this is certainly optional, there are other things you can use, but I like to use, this is called bowl tape, B-O-W-L, and it's used for fastening oasis to a container, and I use it to hold my flower stems together. And I typically will cut it ahead of time and have it dangling off the side of my table, or in this case my countertop, so that when it comes time to fasten those flower stems, it's easy for me to grab this, because when you're holding the flowers in place, it's not always easy to juggle and cut a piece of tape. So I do that ahead of time. Okay, so when it comes to arranging this bouquet, I like to start with 3 core flowers. So these are the flowers that I envision being in the center of that bouquet. And then I start adding. So because I want to have a variety, I want to start adding my calla lilies around that. And I'm trying to position these callas so that they are facing a certain direction. That doesn't always happen. I mean, the flowers don't always cooperate. Like this stem wants to turn really bad, so I think I'm going to just let it because it's too much of a struggle to hold it here. If it was really important for that stem to be in this position, then what I would do is make sure that it's where I wanted it to be, and then I'd take a piece of that tape and I would start taping these so that it held in that position. Okay, I also want to add in my dahlias. And I'm trying to mix them up. I don't want just a clump of red roses. I want red roses, orange calla lilies, and yellow dahlias interspersed together. So I turn this in my hand and I look at, how things are going together. I'm looking at the top all the time, and I make adjustments as needed. So again, I'm just trying to turn that calla around. It doesn't want to do that, so I'm going to let it do what it wants to do. I see a petal that I don't like, so I remove that. And I just look, at the way that the bride's going to see it, or the bridesmaid, and just want to make sure that it all looks really pretty and put together. So I'm finding it interesting. It looks like I don't need one rose here. It just kind of seems out of place. It takes away the round shape that I'm going for. So again, I'm just adjusting. And what I'm not liking is that it looks heavily weighted with the yellow on one side. So I'm going to start moving the flowers around and see if I can change that. All right, that disperses the color a little bit better. I'm just trying to decide, maybe I do need that extra flower. So I don't know why my yellow keeps moving on me. I really prefer to have my roses on the outside because they are a stronger and firmer flower, and they tend to hold up. The weaker flowers and dahlias and mini callas tend to have weaker stems. They're softer stems, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And when they're being used like this, I feel like it's helpful if they have a little bit of support. So what happened there, I just moved a calla because it started looking like all my orange was in one space or all on one side of this bouquet. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. So now I'm going to hold this tight in my hand, and I'm reaching for this piece of bowl tape that I had previously cut. And I want to fasten these very carefully and very tight. I have seen people use rubber bands to do this. I have seen people use twist ties to do this. I have seen people use a cloth covered wire to do this. A chenille stem could certainly hold it. I just personally prefer this tape. It holds it really tight. I mean, I don't have to worry about that going anywhere, and it doesn't damage the flower stems typically. Okay? Once you have it positioned like this, then you want to cut all of your stems to be one length. And typically, a bride carries this with just one hand, sometimes with two. And so you want to allow a couple of hand lengths for that. These vases that I like to use are 7.5 inches tall. And I find that if this sits just right on top of the lip of the vase, the stems are normally perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and cut those. And when I do this cut, I'm cutting it over the garbage can. Now I'm doing a straight cut. And I'm going to give them one more dip in my hydrating solution. I'm going to check to see the height in the vase. See, that fits just so nicely. Okay, and so as I'm looking at this, I'm thinking that little yellow dahlia over here needed to come down a little bit. And I was able to do that without taking it apart, but now I need to cut off that stem length. All right, that looks like a better distribution to me. And now I'm going to wrap this with my ribbon. The ribbon wrap is a decorative feature, and it covers up the tape so that people don't see how this is all held together. I like to start at the top, and I hold that tight and pull, and then I wrap. I literally just wrap. This is a sheer ribbon, and when you use a sheer ribbon, you typically have to use more because you have to wrap a few more times than if you were using a solid ribbon, because the sheer you can see through. So I don't go all the way down to the bottom. I leave, about a 1/2 inch or an inch still showing of the flower stems. And that's again because I'm going to be putting it back into this vase with some water to keep these flowers fresh. When I cut my ribbon, I like to fold over the edge so that it's got a finished look. And again, you want to make sure that that's pulled really tight. And then you want to grab your pins and fasten to make sure that that ribbon stays where it needs to stay to hold this all together. So I usually do the top and the bottom first because those are the two places that tend to move. And then I come back and I fill in. Because this was a wide ribbon, a number 40 ribbon, I'm going to use 4 pins. If you were using a smaller ribbon, the number 9 ribbon, then normally I would only use 3. But this is a decorative accent, so really if I wanted to add pins all the way down this bouquet handle, you can do that as well. So there's your finished bouquet. Now, I would recommend spraying this either with water or with a finishing spray that you can buy at your local wholesaler. And then again, you want to put it in this vase with a little bit of water so that the flowers can continue to drink. I actually deliver these exactly like this. Because of the car ride, you know, bumps and so on, that water's going to move and swish around in there, which usually gets the flower, the ribbon handle wet. So I always just warn my brides, the handle's wet because of the transportation, but it's keeping your flowers alive. So before you pick that up and put it too close to your dress, make sure that you have a paper towel or a towel handy so that you can dry the handle, and then you can hold it next to the dress. You don't want to have the bride drip water on a beautiful white gown and have any kind of staining happen. And typically you would hold the bouquets low, you know, like from maybe the waist height down. Okay, enjoy.